This is a great morning in Los Angeles. I was just meeting with all of the men and women who keep our city running day in and day out, protecting Angelenos. We just had a breakfast celebrating what is a victory. I remember in April when I gave my State of the City speech and unfortunately had to announce that the state of the economy and our budget in the city at that time in April of this year was going to result in the potential layoff of 1,600 city workers. Well, I am here today to tell you that this has been completely averted. This took a tremendous amount of work on behalf of many people, but I will tell you that closing a $1 billion deficit, which is where we were in April, was something that was terrifying to all of us. That $1 billion deficit was because of the economic downturn, the uncertainty in our nation that continues until this day, liabilities that had escalated in the city, all led to us having a $1 billion deficit. So every step of the way, though, I committed to get to the place where we are today, to do everything that we can to deliver for Angelenos, and we use a variety of solutions. First and foremost, after I turned the budget over to the City Council worked long and hard, and they were able, through a variety of methods, reduce the number of layoffs to 600. Every step of the way, we were laser focused on delivering for Los Angeles. We used creative solutions such as transferring positions to other departments like the port and the airport, and working with general managers to develop other alternatives. That is the work that took place after I signed the budget. Because even signing the budget and celebrating that we had averted 1,000 layoffs was not enough for me. It wasn't good for the city, and it wasn't good for delivering city services, which is why we continued to work. I want to specifically thank our city administrative officer, Matt Szabo. Where's Matt Szabo? Well, he'll be joining us. Well, Matt Szabo, call him, make sure he comes here so he can get his applause because he worked tirelessly. Matt Hale, our deputy mayor. Where is that here? So this is not about numbers on a spreadsheet. This was always about protecting our skilled city workforce who have trained for years and honed their crafts as building inspectors, truck operators, mechanics, engineers, city planners, street lighting electricians, crime and intelligence officers, zoo animal keepers, and so many more roles that are responsible for the delivery of vital services to Angelenos. And I have to tell you that some people said it couldn't be done, but I am so glad to stand here and say that we have proved the naysayers wrong. We embraced creative solutions and worked aggressively toward our shared goal because that is our mission. That is our charge, to refuse to allow challenges to slow us down, and we will move every ounce of urgency we possess to continue moving Los Angeles forward in a new direction, away from the old failed ways of doing business. So I want to thank our partners that are here today, and I look forward to continuing our work together. We know we have challenges ahead, but we also have major opportunities, because in less than a year now, the World Cup will be here. 8 games will be played in our city, and we are going to do everything we can to make sure that LA is completely ready to welcome the world in a little less than 12 months. So I see that Matt Szabo has entered the room. I just want you to know, Matt, I talked about you before and talked about your tireless efforts to get us where we are today. So thank you very much, and we're going to give him another round of applause. So now I would like to introduce the woman who is in charge of the Los Angeles labor movement, also known as the LA County Federation of Labor. And then I just learned a few minutes ago that she had this nickname. She was called the Beyonce of labor in Los Angeles. Welcome, Yvonne Wheeler. I love to do it.
I wish I had Beyonce's money. Wait, I wish I had Beyonce's money. Good morning, sisters, brothers, and siblings, and everyone gathered today. My name is Yvonne Wheeler, as my mayor just shared with you. I represent over 800,000 union members in the city of Los Angeles, all across the city of Los Angeles. And on behalf of the 800,000 union members, we are here to say thank you to Mayor Bass, the members of Los Angeles City Council, and the City of Coalition of Labor Unions who worked diligently to deliver aid and ensure that there were no layoffs in the city of Los Angeles. That's a huge success. That is a huge success. This is more than a budget decision. This is a promise kept to the people who keep our city running every single day. From sanitation crews to street services, from clerks to crossing guards, from engineers to emergency responders. Our city workers are the backbone of Los Angeles. Protecting the jobs means protecting the services the residents depend on day in and day out. When workers have stability, neighborhoods have stability. When families can count on a paycheck, small businesses thrive. And when jobs are secure, our entire city grows. When workers have stability, we understand clearly what that means to the city of Los Angeles, and this gives them the stability that they needed. Many of them were worried about being laid off. Many of them were worried about being furloughed. Now that's not going to happen today, and that's because of the diligent work of those individuals that stand in here today. So let today's announcement send a clear and powerful message. Los Angeles will not balance its books on the back of working people.
Right.
Instead, we will invest in our workforce, in our communities, and in the future where prosperity is shared. To every city worker, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice and your unwavering commitment to this great city. Los Angeles sees you, values you, and stands with you. Together, we will continue to build a Los Angeles that works for everyone. Now, I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing to some and presenting to others the president and CEO of SEIU Local 721 and my dear friend David Green, who represents 100,000 union members and 11,000 city employees. Thank you. And I welcome you,
Thanks, Yvonne.
Mr. Green.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Beyonce of the labor movement, Yvonne Wheeler. Good morning, everybody. My name is David Green, and I'm the proud President Executive Director of SEIU Local 721. And our members secured a historic agreement that will avert layoffs and establishes a joint effort with the city to increase revenues to protect and restore our city services. Now that the agreement has received a yes vote from our membership, it will save critical frontline positions, boost city revenues, and strengthen vital services Angelinos depend on. Let's hear it for them. I want to give a special thanks to our friend, Labor's friend, Mayor Karen Bass. Budget and City Councilwoman Katie Erslovsky, and our city leaders. Let's hear it for them. So our collaboration landed this historic agreement that ensures hardworking members who keep our city running every single day get to keep their jobs while helping increase our city's revenues. These essential city workers, they provide services, everything from animal care, wastewater management, industrial waste management, and so much more. And it's no secret working families across the country are under attack from Washington, with a so-called big beautiful bill cutting $1 million funding from frontline public sector workers and the services our members provide, and ripping up healthcare and taking away from millions and millions of Californians and people across the United States. At the same time, volatile tariffs are threatening city revenues and all of our wallets. Despite all these daunting budget realities, we stood strong. We stood strong. And negotiated a historic package that protects our essential frontline city workers from layoffs. So we're here to stand together with the mayor and this team of labor. Let's move forward. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I want to introduce my friend and my brother, Matthew Maldonado from AFSCME. Let's hear it.
Thank you, Brother Green. I appreciate the comments. Good morning. My name is Matthew Maldonado, Executive Director of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME District Council 36, representing 10,000 city employees. I'm glad to be here today alongside city employees, all the other city unions, Mayor Karen Bass, and the LA City Council members and city administrators in recognition of this layoff avoidance agreements that saved LA City jobs that were set to be eliminated. I would like to start by thanking the city employees up here who guided these agreements with the principle that one layoff was one too many.
Yes.
This principle was supported by Mayor Bass and LA City Council members, and thank you all. This couldn't have been done without your support. I would also like to thank the city department directors who have worked and continue to work tirelessly to find a place to absorb the employees slated to be laid off. There are many things happening in our city that could have been easily shelved. The idea of one layoff was too many. We were able to come to an agreement because these positions represent critical service that our city residents rely upon. The 311 operators that are often the first point of contact for residents seeking information. The LADOT operators that ensure traffic officers are safe on the job. Our executive administrative assistants who process important documents and keep department heads organized, and many other employees that keep the city moving. And whenever there's a natural disaster hits, like earlier this year, our members are there to help guide victims during a tragic time in their life. To put it simply, our members are the backbone of LA City, and I'm proud of their resilience during this physical emergency. Right. They saw the challenges Los Angeles faced, and once again they stepped up to ensure that Angelenos didn't lose their essential services they depend on. Our members were instrumental in securing this layoff avoidance agreement. If not for the LA City unions here today, working to find solutions, over 1,600 city employees would have found themselves on the unemployment lines. So thank you again to our members who tirelessly advocated at all levels of governance. Your advocacy and solidarity truly made a difference. And thank you to our coalition partners that we collaborated with to reach this agreement. This was an incredible achievement for us in this moment, and we must now turn our attention to the future. Yes. Make no mistake, there are decisions being made at federal level affecting us all. So Mayor, your leadership, City Council members, LA City unions must continue to work together to ensure city employees are protected beyond this fiscal year and Angelenos continue to receive the services they rely on. Our collective priority is to keep the city of Los Angeles strong and moving forward. Thank you. It is my honor to bring up our next speaker, Marlene Fonseca, Executive Director of EAA.
Good morning, sisters and brothers. My name is Marlene Fonseca. I'm the Executive Director of EAA Union, proudly representing 6,000 city employees. First, I want to thank Mayor Bass for all you do and for bringing us all here together today. I also want to thank the Personnel Department, CAO's office, and all the general managers who have really worked over the last couple months, reducing the number of layoffs. I also need to generously recognize the Los Angeles Police Protective League, who stepped up to protect their civilian employees, our members. They made this impact lighter for all of us. But most of all, I want to thank the city employees and our 6,000 EAA union members, employees who serve this city from the airport to the zoo. In a moment of uncertainty, they didn't hesitate to step up and show Los Angeles what true solidarity looks like. They are the reason jobs were protected and services to our community that we all rely on were preserved. Thank you, city employees. Thank you, EAA members. Yesterday, I reached out to a few of our members who were laid off and had been sent home before we made this agreement. One of them would have loved to stand here with us today. However, he couldn't. Thanks to this agreement, he did return to work. Unfortunately, over the weekend, he found himself unexpectedly hospitalized, still today. Had we not had this agreement, he would be facing a medical crisis with no health insurance. However, today, he's with insurance. And he has the coverage that he and his family need at the time they need it most. This is the real human difference that solidarity makes. And unfortunately, his situation is a real potential consequence to layoffs. We must continue working together proactively, not just to respond to crises, but to find long-term solutions, revenue opportunities, smart cost cutting, sustainable budgeting. We cannot afford to find ourselves in this situation in coming years. And all of us here working together, I'm confident that we won't. City employees are already stretched thin, but our members understood what was at stake for their coworkers and for the community. They overwhelmingly approved this agreement, making sure that city families stay secure and city services continue. This proves something very powerful. When working people stand together, we overcome tough challenges. This show of solidarity here in Los Angeles, right here today in Uniontown and LA City Hall, is something that every Angelino and every union represented here should be proud of. Thank you. And with that, I want to introduce my sister from Ask Me, Leticia Gonzalez.
Mi nombre es Leticia González, presidenta de los asistentes administrativos ejecutivos. Buenos días. Hoy me enorgullece estar junto a la alcaldesa Karen Bass, líderes laborales y trabajadores de la ciudad para anunciar que hemos llegado a un acuerdo para evitar despidos en el servicio civil. Esto significa que protegemos a nuestra fuerza laboral y los servicios que brindan a la comunidad. Después de meses de negociaciones, logramos evitar más de 600 despidos. Como dijo la alcaldesa, este fue un año muy difícil para el presupuesto por la situación económica del país, pero nuestros trabajadores no son solo números. Estamos hablando de personas con años de experiencia, desde inspectores, operadores de camiones, mecánicos, ingenieros, planificadores urbanos, electricistas, oficiales de seguridad, cuidadores del zoológico y muchos más que hacen que esta ciudad funcione. Hoy celebramos un paso importante. Gracias a todos los que trabajaron para proteger estos empleos y los servicios que los angelinos necesitan. Gracias.
In the State of the City, when I announced that we were going to have to lay off 1,600 city workers, even though it was always our goal to get to zero. What had to happen was the personnel department, under the new leadership of Malika Phillips, had to begin a very elaborate, detailed process to lay off city employees. What I am signing right now is the termination of that very laborious process. We thank Malika and the staff from the personnel department for all of the work that they had to put into this, but we are very happy that they did not have to execute that process. So with that, when the podium comes back, I'm happy to open it up for questions.
We're going to go to Brittany and then Noah.
Mayor Bass, Brittany with NBCLA. I have two questions, if that's okay. First, in the beginning, I know you talked about closing that $1 billion deficit. At this point, with all these layoffs, is that deficit now officially closed, or what is the status on that?
The deficit is officially closed. And again, we are now preparing for next year. We know that economic times continue to be uncertain, but as of right now, we have a balanced budget with no layoffs.
And then my follow-up to that is, and I was reading a bit of the verbiage that your team handed out, talk about how employees were transferred to different departments. It sounds like there's a shakeup maybe with OT for the police union and then also holidays for some workers.
Let me just tell you the top line, and then I'll ask our chief administrative officer to get into the details. But basically, because we have 3 proprietaries, that's their budgets are not impacting the general fund. We were able to transfer people to the airport and to the port of Los Angeles, the largest port in the Western Hemisphere. 40% of the goods of the country come through the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And of course, we have a world-class airport. So with that, Matt Szabo.
Thank you, Mayor. So by way of background, the way the agreements are structured, at the beginning of the fiscal year in July, after the council adopted the final budget, there were 614 employees that were subject to layoff. What we did with these agreements is we calculated the amount of savings that would be required to keep the employees on the payroll. And then we divided that up. The employees, the civilian employees, more than about 250 civilian employees at Los Angeles Police Department, we worked with the Police Protective League that represents sworn officers who were not subject to layoff. They made an agreement that would achieve, over the course of the year, overtime savings that would be used to cover the employees at the Los Angeles Police Department. For the others, the other about 300 or so, a little bit more than 300 employees, we worked with the civilian unions, and we agreed that we would work together to expedite working with the personnel department, transferring the employees that were subject to layoff to jobs that came available over the course of the year for vacancies. As a way to ensure the savings, the civilian employees agreed to up to 5 unpaid days off in the latter half of this fiscal year. That would be sufficient, that would achieve the savings that would be required to keep all of the employees on the payroll for the entire fiscal year, thus eliminating the layoffs.
Thank you.
Noah and then Kurt.
You should stay.
As the CAO just made clear, it feels like you guys pulled out all the stops this year to avert these 1,600 layoffs.
Yeah.
Liabilities are still going to be an issue next
That's
year.
right.
A lot of the same budgetary problems are going to persist. So are we going to be, best case scenario back here, next year, hoping to avert with more layoffs?
No, best case scenario is we'll be able to, the economy will get a little better and we'll be able to not have the deficits that we did before. However, we all know that especially coming out of Washington, we don't know what to expect. And I'm going to ask Matt to go into a little more detail, but many of the solutions that we came up with will also help us for next year as well.
So is it $1 billion budget shortfall is not expected again next year? Or
At this point, we don't know. Go ahead.
Sure. So to be clear, the budget closed the $1 billion gap. So there is no $1 billion deficit. That deficit was closed. The challenge that we had today, or up to today, was how do we implement the budget, implement the reductions without triggering the layoffs and the service reductions that those layoffs would cause. As it relates to this current fiscal year, we're monitoring revenues and our expenditures, including our liabilities. We'll be reporting quarterly. Our first report on the condition of our current year's budget will be next month, a little bit later in October. We are certainly concerned about revenues. We're very concerned about the impact of tariffs on our local economy, and so we'll be providing updates over the course of the year. But as of now, the $1 billion deficit was closed, and as this budget is implemented, we are projecting structural balance in the following fiscal year, along with surpluses in years 3 and 4.
And I just have to say, I mean, next year will be our 250th anniversary of our nation, and we have never had a situation where we are fearful of our own government. And so looking at tariffs, one day we have tariffs, the next day we don't. So we know that we will be moving forward in a period of uncertainty, but it is important just to point out the historical precedent that we are experiencing right now.
Great. Thank you. Mayor, I'm going to come to you second, please. Matt, I have a couple housekeeping questions. There was the job transfer portal, which allowed people to have expedited access to open report, LAX. How many people went to each?
So we'll have to. We could provide that afterwards. We can provide you a breakdown. The majority of the positions that have been transferred thus far have been within city departments that we've been working with the personnel department to identify vacant positions within departments to ensure to the greatest extent possible that the city employees can stay within the department to preserve the service levels where possible. There have been a handful of employees that have gone to the port and to the airport, but the majority have been within departments, and that will be the focus moving forward, because the goal is, of course, to save jobs, but also to try to preserve the services that are delivered.
And please allow one follow-up then. I remember today when you in council told leadership in the city, we have $1 billion deficit. We might have to lay off 1,600 people. It was such a breathtaking moment. We interrupted programming with a special report on CNX. Did you think you'd get to this point? Because when you made that announcement, it sounded like dire.
Yeah. At the time that I made that announcement in March of last year, we had an idea of the magnitude of the challenge, and at that point did not have a clear picture. There certainly were pathways, but that is what the mayor's budget process is about. So we worked under the mayor's leadership to close that gap with as minimal impacts on city services as possible. But as you saw with the proposed budget, it just wasn't possible. The mayor had no choice but to propose a budget with 1,649 position eliminations. We continued to do work and work with the council to find other options, additional revenues, offsetting reductions in departments to reduce that number down to the 600 that we started the year with, and then these agreements allowed us to close that out.
Thank you. And Mayor, I have to ask you to weigh in on this.
See, he said last year, I think it's an example of how difficult this year has been. It felt like last year.
I covered every minute of the budget.
What'd you say?
I covered every minute of the budget.
Yeah, it was very difficult.
Not happy. So my question to you, the Biden administration, after the Palisades disaster, did pledge a lot of FEMA money to Los
Right.
Angeles. And of course, the city has had to forward that money.
Right.
They haven't received it yet, the city. Are you worried that the Trump administration could hold up or delay or not give that money as pledge and plunge the city into financial chaos?
You know, I am going to stay with the fact that there has been no indication from the Trump administration that they are not going to honor President Biden's commitment of 100% reimbursement. Typically, you know, it's 75%. And so I think it's important that we stay there. The other thing that was unprecedented is the numbers of National Guard, not National Guard, but Army Corps of Engineers that was deployed to the fire area. Obviously in Los Angeles, we're just talking about the Palisades, but allows us to say now we've had the fastest recovery in the state's recent history if you compare it to the other fires. The reason why we have issued over 700 permits for about 500 properties, and we have 50 or more houses that are going up now in the Palisades. And so I'm going to stay there.
Last question.
A follow-up to the concerns with tariffs. I've been covering reports pretty closely. In the summer, there was a few months where there was like no action. No votes coming in with the uncertainty of tariffs. Now we're having this big rush come in before more tariffs from China hit. Is there any uncertainty or worry for those employees who did transfer to port jobs?
No, and you know, I'll ask you to follow up with that, Matt. But from our CEO at the port, Gene Soroka, no. And one thing I have to say about him, his leadership and our port, is that even in the midst of not knowing from one day to the next whether we were going to have tariffs or how high they were going to be, our port has continued to make steady progress and is doing well in spite of that challenge. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, I think that's fine. I mean, well, I'll just say the only thing that you know, the main concern that we have as it relates to tariffs is inflation, and inflation is has such a damaging effect on city revenues because inflation affects spending. And when things are more expensive, people spend less. So we have less business tax, we have restaurants closing, we have less sales tax. And so the initial signs this year that have led to the interest rate reductions are positive. But we're looking at this very carefully. Certainly tariffs are inflationary, but it does seem to be relatively steady now, and that's our hope for the future.
And as we conclude, let me just say, as I began, that this is an incredible day in the city of Los Angeles. I always believed from day one, even though I had to stand up in the city hall chambers and say that 1,600 people could potentially face layoffs, I always believed in our city workforce, in the unions that represent them, in the leadership here in the city, that we were going to find our way out of this, and at the end of the day would say that we have preserved the city workforce and averted layoffs. Thank you very much.